I want to tell you about a part-time job I had a long time ago. I used to work in the sewers. My job was to investigate any blockages in the pipes or drains and find the cause of the problems. It doesn't sound great, but I was honestly excited to go to work every day. I enjoyed exploring underground. Every day it felt like I was going on an adventure into an unseen world beneath everyone's feet. I remember that my boss said to me when I first started, "When you're down there, there is a chance you may run into a person or a group of people. If you see them, just say something to them. Try to talk to them. Maybe ask why they are down there. If they don't reply to you, get the hell away from them. Run away immediately. Never follow them if they attempt to lead you somewhere." I had been down the sewers so many times since my boss's initial warning that I came to the realization that depending on the sewer pipe and how dry it was, people could live down there easily. Occasionally, I encountered homeless people. The homeless are harmless. They never gave me any problems and I never thought they would hurt me. The people I was most worried about were the delinquents, the drug users, the gangs, and sometimes the mentally insane. I saw the places where they did their deals or business, where there was evidence of it. Now that I think about it, living down there must be incredibly dangerous, as you never know who you're going to run into. There could be murderers, criminals, anyone living down there. When you go down there, you enter through a manhole. If you were to move 10 meters away from the point of entry, you would see nothing but darkness. Mentally, it can be terrifying, not knowing what's down there with you. Your imagination runs wild in the darkness. Anything could be lurking down there. Once, I had to go really far into the sewer to investigate a blockage. I shone my torch against the circular walls of a tunnel, and all over the walls, words were written, like a mantra or a chant. The same words, repeated over and over again. It was pretty terrifying. Another time I was happily working down there, exploring my underground world. I was excited about exploring this tunnel because it was connected to a river. If you go into these kinds of sewers, you will find that they are really huge. They are so vast and cavernous, maze-like. I love them. I was enjoying my exploration when I noticed a shadow cast against the wall, 20 meters from the entrance before me. It was the shadow of a human being. I called out, as I always did, inquiring as to what they were doing down there and to announce my presence. There was no reply. Because the sewer was so huge, an increase in the amount of water could cause death for this individual, so I wanted to let them know that this wasn't a good place to be. I had to talk to them for their own safety. This wasn't the kind of place the homeless or delinquents usually operated in. Since whoever was there didn't reply, I began to question if it was a trick of the light, my mind playing tricks on me, or perhaps it was a shadow cast by something else. I decided to go in for a closer look. As I drew closer, I could clearly see that this shadow belonged to a human. It moved like a human's shadow. I began angrily lecturing whoever was there about the dangers of being in this area during the rainy season. The person started to run as I got closer. As they ran, I heard their footfalls making some eerie metallic clanking sounds. It was a horrible sound. At that point, I became determined to catch this individual. I really don't know why, but I guess it was because whoever this was ruining my exploration. This was my private area, and they shouldn't be down there. I chased him for a while, but he was much too fast. The clanking also hurt my ears. I came to my senses when I nearly fell into a water retention chamber below. I had forgotten how dangerous it was for a moment. Whoever was there seemed to completely disappear. It was as if they vanished. I could still hear that clanking somewhere nearby though. It frightened me. I ran back to the entrance and called my boss. I told him about what happened and he simply replied, "That is why we do not follow the ones who do not reply." He told me about some of the employees who had similar experiences. That was enough for me. I thought it was my own private world down there in the sewers, save for a few homeless people or the occasional crazy person. I found out that something else owned the maze of pipes beneath our feet, and I never wanted to find out what that thing is. Soon after that, I handed in my resignation letter. It's been years since I have been down the sewers, but sometimes I will wake from a nightmare, covered in sweat, still hearing the distant clank of someone's metallic footfall.
This has been happening for the last couple of nights, and I'm at my wit's end. Life is very scary right now. I can hear a baby crying. I can also hear the mother soothing the child, talking to the baby sweetly in order to calm the child down. Directly opposite my house, there is a small park. I'm sure the mother of the child is coming to the park at night to calm the child down. Maybe the cool night air helps if the little one has a fever, I guess. I often wondered if they were okay. I didn't find the child crying irritating. Actually, my wife is pregnant. I know it sounds a bit dumb, but I actually felt close to the lady in the park. My wife felt the same way. Whenever we would hear the child crying, we would turn to each other and say, "Oh, she's back again," or something. Anyway, I got home from work last night. The following is what my wife told me as soon as I walked through the door. I was out with a friend I hadn't seen in a long time. It got a little late, so I headed home. That lady was in the park with her child. Her baby was wrapped up in a sling. She was hugging the child close to her body and smiling. She looked so content and happy. I decided to approach her since I was a little tipsy. "How is the little one?" I called out. The mother didn't react at all. She just carried on whispering to the child. I drew closer and the mother looked ill, very pale, sick. Her smile seemed lifeless up close. "I'll be a mother soon," I said. I thought maybe we could be friends. She glared at me, still saying nothing. She then threw the baby sling off her shoulder, snatched the child into her hands, and threw it at me. My wife was sobbing at this point. I didn't know what to do except catch the poor thing. Luckily, I did. I screamed. Something was wrong. The baby was stiff. It wasn't a baby at all. It was a doll. I panicked and just dropped it. Then I heard the crying that we hear. It was coming from the woman. She had been imitating a baby crying. That's where my wife's part of the story finishes. She said that she just ran home, locked the doors and windows, and waited for me to come back. The park is right in front of our house. I don't know what to do about this. This has really shaken up my wife. Tonight, when I came back from work, I saw the woman and the child in the park. I kept my distance, and the woman didn't even look at me. I can hear the child crying, or should I say the woman, as I write this. I don't know what's happening out there. I will let you know if anything further happens. Note, there have been no further posts.
This happened last October. I went with a bunch of friends ghost hunting. The location was close by a lake, near a restaurant which had become abandoned. The restaurant was ruined and dilapidated. It had become quite famous online and in the local area. I remember that it was covered in graffiti, but my friends and I didn't see any ghosts or get freaked out. We were pretty annoyed. We love getting spooked out. Just as we were about to go home, one of my friends called out, "Hey, there's a phone number here." He was in the bathroom. My friend and I joined him, cracking broken glass beneath our feet. I expected the number to be written in pen or something, but it had been scratched into the stainless steel sink. Why would someone do that? I wondered. My friends wanted to call the number, and I didn't see any harm in doing so. I punched the numbers into my smartphone and hit the call button. I couldn't believe it. It was still an active number. Judging by the dust and age of the abandoned restaurant, I felt for sure that it would be a dud. The phone rang. We waited with bated breath in the restaurant. Someone picked up. "Hello?" I said. We waited for a response, but there wasn't one. It was just someone breathing. It sounded digitized and slightly robotic. We didn't like it. Well, I know I didn't. Just as I was about to push the button to hang up, I heard a woman's voice say, "Finally, you called me." I hung up and we got out of there as quickly as possible. That's not where the story ends though. I was plagued with calls from the number we found in the abandoned restaurant. Every day. I told my friend who worked in the smartphone shop at the time that I was getting a load of nuisance calls. He asked why I hadn't blocked the number, so I told him what had happened. He loves scary stuff, so he was all like, "Take me there, man, I want to see this for myself." So reluctantly, I returned to the restaurant. The strange thing was, no matter how hard we looked, we couldn't find that number again anywhere. It was like it never existed. I kept getting the same creepy calls though, so eventually, I had my friend change my number. I had so many of the calls on my voicemail that I know that number off by heart. I don't think I should share it though.
This happened when I was in elementary school. My dad had got a new job and our family had to relocate. Our family went from living in the center of Tokyo to a totally rural location where the nearest shop was a 20-minute drive away. We moved during spring break of the school year. It was really tough since I didn't have any friends. I would stay home from morning to night every day, playing games. One day, my mum told me to go outside and play. So against my will, I went out to play alone. I didn't know anyone, so I just walked around the neighborhood by myself. Living in the city, I was always surrounded by tall buildings and shops, but in the countryside, there was nothing but forests and mountains. It made me nervous. I was alone in a new place. I was walking along, in a bit of a sulk. I arrived at a small grove of trees which led up a hill. I noticed that there were some stone steps, and at the top of those steps was what looked like a shrine. There was a big torii gate, and stone gate guardians too. From the shrine, I heard the sound of children playing and laughing. By the sound of their voices, I guessed they might have been about my age. So I headed up the stone steps to go and meet them. I was hoping that they would let me join in with whatever games they were playing, and maybe we could be friends. I walked up the steps and under the torii. As I got closer, I could see the shrine. It was in a state of disrepair. It lay in waste. There were fallen leaves all over the place. It seemed that no one was coming here to pray anymore. I wondered where the kids' voices were coming from, or if they had gone somewhere. I walked around the shrine. I saw two kids as they were running off. Shadows danced on the wall. There was a boy chasing a girl. It looked like they were playing tag. I followed them, wanting to join in. When I rounded one of the corners of the shrine, I found that they had disappeared. Yet I heard some laughter coming from a small shed towards the back of the shrine grounds. Bush and grass had overgrown back there, and it was barely visible. My new potential friends had run into the shed, I thought. So I trampled through the weeds and creaked the shed door open. It was so dark in there. There were no windows. There was no indication that the kids were in here with me. It wasn't a very big shed, and there was nowhere they could be hiding. As I realized this, I heard a horrible, rattling sound coming from behind me. I spun around and saw the kids. They were at the shed door, and they were trying to force it shut on me. I couldn't see their faces, as the sun was behind them, but they were giggling and laughing like crazy. "Stop!" I screamed. The door slammed shut before I could stop them, and the shed filled with darkness. I ran back to the door and tried to open it, but I couldn't. It felt like something heavy was up against it. I was imprisoned there, in the dark. "Let me out!" I screamed, as I banged my fists against the door. It was no good. I just heard those kids laughing at me. I didn't think they'd ever let me out. Then, I heard the kids' laughter coming from inside the shed. How did they get back inside? It's impossible, I thought. My brain must have been playing tricks on me. Or it was some sort of auditory hallucination, surely. I was wrong. I sensed a presence in there. I was no longer alone. My eyes were adjusting to the dark as a figure in the shed shifted. Someone was here with me. I felt their eyes on me. I felt fear well up and envelop me. I let out a scream that I haven't heard since. I heard the shed door rattling again beneath my screams. It opened. There stood an old lady I hadn't seen before. She heard my scream and came to see if anyone was hurt. "Boy, are you okay? You should never play here again, okay?" I cannot forget the look on her face as she said that. When the school year started, I asked about, to try and find out who those kids were at the shrine, but I never found them. I made a friend, and after a while I told him about what had happened to me. He knew the shrine I was talking about. He was told never to go there, but he never knew why, and even when he asked his parents, they wouldn't comment any further. Big thank you once again to my friend and yours, Papa Scares. Head on over to his channel to find some more great stories. I'll leave some links in the description for some other compilations. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.